We'll call this meeting of the Silver City Town Council to order. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I'm going to waive from the agenda just a little bit. We don't have anything under ceremonies, but I do have something. And I'm going to ask Ann Mackey to come up here and join us. Come join him. On August 16th, we received a letter from the State of New Mexico Department of Finance Administration expressing appreciation to our town clerk, Ann Mackey, for assistance that she provided to the village of Wagon Mound. And it states, your courtesy and professionalism goes way above and beyond your normal call of duties. I have always held all of the employees of the town of Silver City in highest regard. Once again, you have proven and upheld the positive reputation on behalf of the town to reach out and help a municipality that is in need of assistance. The residents of Silver City are truly fortunate to have someone of your caliber in office. And if you need assistance, feel free to contact. And that's from Samuel Hinaga, the Deputy Director of the Department of Finance Administration, Local Government Division. And in response to that, the Town Council and the Town Manager would like to present Ms. Ann Mackey a certificate of exemplary service in recognition of her professional manner, knowledge, and willingness in assisting others on this 10th day of September 2013.
Thank you.
And the next item on the agenda is public input. And I remind you, you have 5 minutes to speak. If you're looking at me, I'll give you a 1-minute warning. And first and only up is William Joseph, reference ordinances and other matters. Mr. Joseph.
I'll make just a few points in my 5 minutes. First, I want to thank you, James, for in particular for the Office of Sustainability. I think this is foresight at its best, and the innovation will pay dividends down the road. And they just wrote a manual and recommendations on conservation, which I think will be presented to you next couple of weeks. I hope we continue to be proactive on that, or the consequences will be dire. The second point I want to make is on noise and animal control. I want to say that I've used the system in 2 particular incidents of out-of-control barking dogs, and actually both times it did work. The police responded and Sherwood dealt with the offenders, and the problem was rectified. However, I do want to say the process takes about 6 weeks to 2 months to complete, which is why many people don't complain. Also, a statement on out-of-control dog owners. I left 2 personal messages to ask these owners to quiet their dogs, and both times they totally told me to get screwed and ignored me, and it was only due to law enforcement that they were quieted. So that's just a statement. The third thing I want to say is speeding drivers and car boom boxes is still a continuing problem, and a serious problem that's getting worse, especially on Market and Bullard Streets. We as a town are not in control of this. I've just been to about 3 different meetings in town with neighborhoods, and one particular driver with a blue Mustang with loud mufflers, license, everybody's got his license plate, 640 RRF, speeds up and down Market and Bullard and F Street all hours of the day, doesn't care, he's been told, disturbs numerous neighborhoods. This is one guy. The police have been called numerous times by numerous people, and yet there's, to this date, there is no resolution on this. And along with that, Albuquerque has the same problem, and they have reacted positively to neighborhood complaints by writing a manual on how to empower neighborhoods against speeding cars and loud cars. And I think that's the key, is how can we empower the neighborhood. My only recourse is usually just to call the police. I think there's a number of ways we can do this. I encourage you to look at their model. I don't have the website. I wish I did, but I don't. in how we can empower our neighborhoods against speeders, loud music, and overall, basically, criminal behavior, which this town feels, it's not just my opinion, that's getting worse. And in particular, I mentioned this to Joe Ray because I live in District 3 in Bullard, and Market is in District 3, which it seems to be a big problem there. And I would be willing to help you on resolutions with that if you wanted to call me. I'm in touch with other neighborhood people. Feel free. My number is 534-9106. I'm not trying to lay the problem on you, but I'd be willing to work with you on that. Possible solutions have been mentioned. I'm sure they've been mentioned to you before. Police bicycle patrols downtown, speed bumps and speed islands. And how about neighborhood signs saying, "We enforce," noise ordinance, speed limits, animal control, fines up to $300 and up or whatever, and put those signs in our neighborhoods and give us some recourse that we can deal with. Again, one person right now is controlling about 3 neighborhoods, and that something's wrong there. So, I'll leave it with that, and that's it. Thank you.
Next up is council comments. Councilor Moronis, would you like to start?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first thing, I let some of the individuals at the Volunteer Center of Grant County know that I would remind everybody that they're having a work party this Saturday, September 14th, from 8 a.m. to 1:30. And they're going to be install a patio at the Common Center. It is located at 13th and Corbin Streets, just west of the Knights of Columbus building. Anybody who wants to go help the Volunteer Center of Grant County, I think it'd be a great opportunity to do so. On another item, I had some inquiries about the inspection of public records, and I have a basic knowledge of that act and a basic understanding, but if Alex could just help me let us know what that act is and what our policies and procedures are within the town in relation to that.
Well, basically, the Inspection of Public Records Act was amended this year. Basically, any written communication with the town constitutes a request according to the Inspection of Public Records. Basically, the law requires that that request needs to be passed on to the custodian of the records, which is basically Ann Mackey. But the employees are urged to work with individuals, residents, to, if they're simple requests, just information that we have on file, pass it on. Don't require them to go through the entire process. But unless there's certain, there's confidential information or anything, it still needs to go through the regular process. But we try to be as open. There's nothing to hide within our government, and, we just work with them as best we can.
I appreciate that, and that's kind of what my understanding was, and I'm of the basic opinion that as long as the public is legally allowed to have the records, there's nothing that we should be keeping things confidential, that the public should have the same information that we at the council have to help them provide public input and such. So I appreciate that, and hopefully we can continue to articulate that and cultivate that culture within our staff. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Ray?
No comment.
Thank you. Councilor Cook?
No comment.
Thank you. Councilor Bedison?
No comment.
Thank you. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes of the regular meeting of the Silver City Town Council, August 27th, 2013.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular town council meeting of August 27th, 2013.
There's a second.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion? There's a motion, a second, and no discussion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Soar City Town Council of August 27, 2013. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is reports. Under staff reports, Mr. Brown will report on the State of New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration Local Government Division's approval of the town's final budget for fiscal year 2013-14.
Mayor and council, as required by the state, once the town is given final approval on our final budget, it's required that it be put in the minutes of the next council meeting, that the town council was notified that our budget was approved by DFA, so that's basically all that was. Second, I would like to talk a little bit about Comcast and our franchise agreement, because there is a build-out agreement, section to that franchise. I would like to request anyone from the public within town boundaries to contact my office and let us know if they're having any issues getting access to Comcast cable. If they don't have cable, they don't have the ability to get cable in your neighborhood or whatever it might be, that way we can make sure that is being addressed by Comcast for the agreement that we have with them.
Thank you. Chief? Assistant Chief? Community Development? Thanks, Chief. Next on the agenda is a public hearing entitled Transfer of Ownership and Location of Liquor License Number 0735, applicant name WNN Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Walgreen number 10808, proposed location 100 North Rosedale Road, Silver City, New Mexico. The town council will serve as the hearing board, and I, as the mayor, will be the presiding officer. Have any members of this hearing board had ex parte discussion with any person regarding the subject matter of this hearing, or had any communication from any party to this case?
No, sir.
Hearing none, you are all qualified. Will all parties and witnesses intending to testify, including those staff members who intend to present testimony or who will be available for questioning, please rise and come to the podium to be sworn in by the town clerk. If you have not been sworn, you will not be permitted to testify or otherwise participate in this hearing.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Linda Aiken. I, Deborah Ninick.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear or affirm
that the testimony I am about to give
that the testimony I'm about to give
in the matter before this council
in the matter before this council
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
under penalty of perjury.
under penalty of perjury.
First the applicant shall present their case. Next will come witnesses in support of the applicant's case. The applicant, staff or witnesses may then be questioned by the hearing board. The presiding officer will then ask the applicant if that concludes its case in chief and states that the proponent and its witnesses will remain available to be further questioned by the hearing board, by staff, or by opponents to the application. Following the close of the applicant's case, witnesses in opposition to the applicant's case shall be permitted to testify, during the course of which the witness may address questions to any previous witness, but such questions shall be made to the presiding officer. The presiding officer shall have the sole discretion in directing the question for response, considering whether the question is relevant, is cumulative to other testimony, or is otherwise inappropriate. At the close of testimony against the application, the presiding officer asks the applicant, is there anything else you wish to be reflected in the record? Please introduce yourself and present your case.
Mayor, councilors, my name is Linda Aiken. I'm a lawyer, and all I do is New Mexico liquor license matters. So I thought I'd first tell you a little bit about the facts and how this happened, because I think it's a little confusing, and then work into what the Alcohol and Gaming Division's requirements are as a result of what the facts are in this case. I have done work for both W&N Enterprises and for Walgreens over the years. And Mr. Ninick called me after he had entered, or what he was entering into agreement to buy this particular liquor license. And one of the issues he wanted to discuss with me was the distance to a church that was close to one of his locations, which was a possibility for this liquor license. And he had another location, evidently, too, that would have required a substantial amount of restructuring and rebuilding the building, so it would have been a real investment. And I told him that if those things if he decided that he didn't want to go down that road, that my client Walgreens would probably be interested in buying the liquor license, because they have a liquor license currently in Silver City that's called a retailer liquor license. And a retailer liquor license is the only type of license in New Mexico that can be moved from one city to another city and does not lose its package rights. And there's only about 80 of them in the state, and they're kind of monopoly chips that the big companies use to move around when they can't find a license in a particular city. So Walgreens is moving the license that they currently own and operate here in Silver City to Las Cruces, for a new store in Las Cruces. It's nearly impossible to get a liquor license in Las Cruces. If you can, it's going to cost you at least $800,000. So it was a much better option for Walgreens to buy this license and move their retailer license to Las Cruces. The city of Las Cruces approved the transfer of that license to Las Cruces last Tuesday. So there's actually 3 applications. You're getting 2 of them. When Mr. Ninick or W&N agreed to sell this to Walgreens, the requirement that Alcohol and Gaming has is that both W&N and Walgreens qualify to own the license. They don't want somebody to sign an agreement to buy a license and then not get approved by them, go through the fingerprinting process or whatever's required for approval. So they make us file 2 applications at the same time. One, to transfer the license from the current owner, Patricia May, to W&N Enterprises, and at the same time file an application to transfer it from W&N Enterprises to Walgreens. They process the applications together. And in most cases, they don't even send the application that is similar to the in-between one here, the W&N one, to the city council, because it confuses everybody, because it will never be issued to W&N Enterprises. This liquor license, when it's issued by the state of New Mexico Alcohol and Gaming Division, will be issued to Walgreens to do business as Walgreens at their current store here in Silver City. So the net effect is that one license will leave the city, and you won't have any new businesses that are operating a liquor license in the city. So it really doesn't have an effect one way or the other on what liquor license you have and don't have in the city or operations. Do you have other questions? I mean, Deborah Ninick is present. She's with W&N Enterprises, and she's available to answer questions as well. She was sworn in, and she can do so if there's some questions that the council has.
Thank you. Stay available. Are there any other witnesses in support of the application? Want to say anything, Debbie? You don't have to.
Once again, my name is Deborah Ninick. I'm with W&N Enterprises, and I just wanted to say that we were purchasing this license from the Mays, as Linda Aiken stated, and that we were looking at our options, and we ran into some roadblocks. And so when Linda said that she had Walgreens that was interested and explained what they wanted to do, we decided that would be our best recourse. It's not, once again, bringing an additional liquor license into the area. It's a matter of Walgreens sending their license to Las Cruces, and the license we have will go in the current Walgreens and continue operating as it currently is doing so. And so I'm just going to reinstate what Linda Aikens had to say. Thank you.
Any other witnesses in support of the application? Any questions for any of the witnesses? Mr. Scaver.
Early on, you mentioned that there was no staff report. There is one, and it has been signed off by all department heads.
There is no verbal staff report. The record will reflect the complete package that we were presented, correct? Are there any witnesses in opposition to the application? Seeing none, are there any other questions? Is there anything else the applicant wishes to be reflected in the record, or does this conclude your case? Is the hearing board prepared to consider this application and render its decision?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor.
I move to approve a transfer of ownership and location of liquor license 0735, applicant name WNN Enterprises Incorporated, DBA Walgreens, number 10808, proposed location 100 North Rosedale Road, Silver City, New Mexico.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Do we need to include the language of the waiver for the church?
I think it's
No, I think there's a church in the 300 feet of Walgreens.
Okay,
That's located, that's one reason we use that location.
perfect. There's a motion and a second to approve the application of transfer of ownership and location of liquor license number 0735, applicant name W&N Enterprise Incorporation, doing business as Walgreens, number 10808, a proposed location 100 North Rosedale Road, Silver City, New Mexico. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And that concludes this hearing. Next on the agenda is a public hearing entitled Approval, Disapproval of Transfer of Ownership and Location of Liquor License Number 0735, applicant name Walgreens Company, doing business as Walgreens number 10808, proposed location 100 North Rosedale Road, Silver City, New Mexico. The town council will serve as the hearing board, and I as mayor will be the presiding officer. Have any members of this hearing board had ex parte discussion with any person regarding the subject matter of this hearing, or had any communication from any party to this case? Hearing none, you're all qualified. Will all parties and witnesses intending to testify, including those staff members who intend to present testimony or who will be available for questioning, please rise and come to the podium to be sworn in by the town clerk. If you have not been sworn, you will not be permitted to testify or otherwise participate in this hearing.
Please repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Linda Aiken,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that the testimony I am about to give
that the testimony I am about to give
in the matter before this council
in the matter before this council
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth,
under penalty of perjury.
under penalty of perjury.
The hearing will be conducted as follows. The town staff shall present a brief synopsis of the application. Based on the application, the town staff report is in the packet. The applicant shall present their case. Next will come witnesses in support of applicant's case. The applicant, staff, or witnesses may then be questioned by the hearing board. The presiding officer will then ask the applicant if that concludes its case in chief and states that the proponent and its witnesses will remain available to be further questioned by the hearing board, by staff, or by opponents to the application. Following the close of the applicant's case, witnesses in opposition to the applicant's case shall be permitted to testify, during the course of which the witness may address questions to any previous witness. But such questions shall be made through the presiding officer. The presiding officer shall have the sole discretion in directing the question for response, considering whether the question is relevant, is cumulative to other testimony, or is otherwise inappropriate. At the close of testimony against the application, the presiding officer will ask the applicant, is there anything else you wish to be reflected in the record? And then we'll see if we can get a decision. You have the floor.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, my name's Linda Aiken. I'm the attorney for Walgreens, and Walgreens is purchasing this liquor license so that for use at their current store here in Silver City, so that they can move the liquor license that they currently own at the Walgreens here in Silver City, which is a retailer license, they can move that license to Las Cruces for a new Walgreens store in Las Cruces. So the net effect will be not a new business, not another liquor license, just moving one license actually out. I have no other statements unless you would like me to get into more detail again.
I just got to jump through the process here. Are there any questions for the applicant? No. Hearing none, are there any witnesses in support of the application? Seeing none, are there any witnesses in opposition to the application? Seeing none, does that conclude your case in chief, or is there anything else you wish to be reflected in the record?
Nothing else, thank you.
Thank you. Is the hearing board prepared to make a decision?
Yes, sir.
Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor.
I move to approval of transfer of ownership and location of liquor license number 0735, applicant name Walgreens Company, DBA Walgreens, number 10808, proposed location 100 North Rosedale Road, Silver City, New Mexico.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other discussion?
No, sir.
Hearing none, there's a motion and a second, no discussion, to approve the transfer of ownership and location of liquor license number 0735, applicant name Walgreens Company, doing business as Walgreens number 10808, proposed location 100 North Rosedale Road, Silver City, New Mexico. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and that concludes this hearing. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of resolution number 2013-34, a resolution adopting the 2015 through 2019 infrastructure capital improvement plan. Jamie?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. This is the result of this year's public meetings, which I would like to thank Mr. Brown. He came to our second meeting this year, and it was a great help. He is one of the only people in the town with a personal knowledge of each project, and I feel like he was able to give a lot more feedback to the public that attended the second meeting in August. And I think as a result, we were able to incorporate, especially with him hearing the feedback firsthand, a lot more of their suggestions. This year's projects are ranked a little bit different. They've had a problem with their website in Santa Fe. So when it actually gets submitted next week, it will be 1 through, say, 13 by each fiscal year. They haven't gotten their website up to the capacity to do that yet. So that will be the only change when it's submitted next week from what you were presented tonight. Does anyone have any questions on projects? Any new projects you'd like to know about? Mr. Brown?
The only thing that I would like to say is that I was talking with Priscilla, and she was notified last week, I believe, that any projects that you are going to request capital outlay funding for have to be in the top 3 for this next year. So keeping that in mind, I think, working with the fire department, I would like to request that we move up the ambulances up to number 2, because them being a safety issue, and we've got a lot of miles, and we're starting to have some problems with them, so hopefully we can get some capital outlay to help us fund at least one of the ambulances.
So you wanting to put the fire department vehicles in number 2 and move number 2 to 3 and 3 to 4?
Yes, just move everything else down. And then, as far as the rest of the projects go, there's projects that were added as a result of the public meetings. Some of them are lower. I mean, there was what was the one for the landfill?
It was a solid waste the organic, I think it's in 2017. That was the suggestion. It's 2017 toward the bottom. It's organic waste diversion and processing facility.
And although that basically is the project that needs to be done at the landfill, I did put it on our ICIPs just to show the individuals that were interested in that public that we are going to move forward and at least have the conversations with the landfill to see how we can get that project going. One project that was questioned was the sidewalk project that says sidewalks in Silver City. Basically what that is as I explained at the meeting, it's basically a placeholder so that if any sidewalk funds become available, we can say that we have the sidewalks as a priority. And that way, if it's a small fund, we can tie a small amount of funding, we can tie it to a smaller project. So we're not locked into a certain big project and not be able to do much or whatever it might be. That's what that's for, and we've done it for many years. And then the fact that we've been doing the housing rehab continually getting funding, we just have that every year so that as much money as we can get to continue to do the housing rehab, which has been a very successful program. We'd like to continue doing that. We already have some funding for the Vistas de Plata, so moving that out of the top three, we do have funding to keep working this next fiscal year.
Have you had any discussion with our local legislators on their support of the top three?
No, I haven't, but we have a meeting with them. I think it's next Monday. Yeah, I haven't talked personally on any of them. It's really hard. I mean, the number one priority, the Scott Park, we want to complete that project so we can get as much use out of it to justify the investment. I mean, we're getting tons of use out of it right now. Even the university's using them for football practice, and we have soccer leagues, the baseball, tons of use out there. So we want to get the lights. We've already got some legislative allocation for the lights. The loan should be closing now in October. I don't know when the state's going to give us our legislative allocation because I haven't seen any contracts or nobody's even talking to us about it.
Being the contract for the county, if that's any clue as to when ours are coming. So,
okay, so I can
hopefully that means they're moving along with the contracts.
Okay, so hopefully those will be in place at the same time as the loan, so we can move on the lights. And we have a temporary plan for the concession stand until we get the funding for that. The Chihuahua Hill is going to be our Colonias application. So we want to keep that high up there. The Silco, we have been getting Main Street funding. It is capital outlay, but it's coming through Main Street, and there's not a requirement that it has to be on the top three. I just try to prioritize some of the things that we're looking at and have a real opportunity of being funded. The Cooper Street sidewalks was added just a few days ago because of that funding that I talked about at the last council meeting. We are moving forward. And like Jamie said, I think it was the public meetings, especially the second one, was very productive. And next year I'll start going. We thought about, after the first one, we thought about taking the department heads so that they had specific knowledge of all the projects, but I didn't want to have to take them all. I at least know a little bit about most of the projects and the funding part of it, so it worked fairly well.
You saw my comments regarding after the first meeting, and it was definitely not aimed at Jamie. It was just a matter of, you're the one that screens all of these. But when you invite the public into a meeting and you don't have the details about the topic, it gets very confusing to the public as to how do we have a discussion when nobody knows what we're talking about. So we definitely need to clean up that process.
Yeah, and that's how we will go about it.
I think next year, we may have 2 meetings still. One may be an information gathering for questions for Alex, and then he can come to the second one like he did this time and answer questions. Or we could do the first half information gathering. I'm very open to changing the process so that it works better, and so that people feel that they have an input, and that's the entire reason we have them, is so that we can present these projects to the public. And I would be very happy if they felt that they had more input and more say in the matter and a better understanding of the projects.
Well, and it provides for better input from the public when they know more than a 3-word title of a project.
And I think, you know, the second meeting was very successful in the fact that we started out by getting input on projects, and then by the second half of the meeting, it was answering questions to educate them on why we go through this process and why we can't get some projects done right away and why we can't. And I think everybody left the room feeling a lot better about the process. But as part of that, during the meeting, we were able to take last year's ICIPs and tell them, the public, these are the projects that we completed, these are the ones that are funded, and that's where we're at, and so that we could show them, you know, it's not just a list to come up with a list. It's a working document that we do have success implementing, and we have done it for many years. I remember the first year that I worked on it, we took the old one from the previous year, and it probably had like 300 projects, because it was basically a complete wish list. And over the last 6-8 years, I think we've whittled it down to something of a more realistic working document that is actually beneficial to how we get things moving.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience like to speak regarding resolution number 2013-34 of the ISIP? Ski.
Mr. Mayor and members of the Town Council, my name is Walter Szymanski, and I was one of the Silver City residents who attended the second public input and feedback meeting on this latest ICIP. And I think I may have attended one or two in previous years, but it's a confusing process unless you're somebody that deals with this day in and day out. And so I'm confused as to what role does the public have in this process in terms of setting priorities generally? And then also a specific question I would have is, there's this bucket of a project called sidewalks. Let's say that sidewalks gets funded. How is it then decided which sidewalks? Does the public have any input in that? Is there, because we have safe routes to schools would be a high priority in my mind. As an example, Pine Street, in the neighborhood where we live, where schools are at, there's sidewalks here and sidewalks there, and here, and kids are crossing the street, and so if sidewalks were to get funded, it would seem to me that safe routes to school areas would take a high priority in the sidewalks being developed or repaired or whatever is needed. So I'm confused as to what the public's role is in that, and is the public's role only at the tail end of this process? I was glad to see that some of the projects that were mentioned by the public at the second input meeting were adopted, but does the public play a role in the initial stages, or is there a role that the public could play in initial stages? And so that's I don't know whether those questions are appropriate to the issue right now, but that's what I wanted to ask.
The questions are appropriate.
Okay?
I'm gonna try to answer some, and I'm gonna defer some to Alex.
Okay.
One is, the people in our neighborhood don't use the sidewalks on either side. They walk down the street. So,
A lot of times you're right.
One is, this list and some items on this list are developed by the public. You know, when the tennis courts were on the list, it's because we all got emails and we all got phone calls and we had people come to council meetings and they gave us their priority, whether, you know, whatever caused them to do that. I think the issue that we're facing is we have these hearings every year and we have public meetings every year and we have council meetings twice a month, and I'm not too sure if we're really proficient at having people attend them and participate. So I think that's kind of what happened at the first meeting, was we might not have really been prepared, because typically nobody cares and nobody shows up. So this year we got a good lesson, and we're going to have to adjust our process and make sure that it is more transparent and informative. So number one, you don't waste your time developing public input that's covered. And I think I can address the prioritizing, but I think I'll defer it to Alex.
The prioritizing is based on listening to both public input, the priorities of the departments as they may be, as well as, for instance, the project that I spoke about on Cooper Street, the sidewalk project, that was at the direct request of El Grito Head Start. So we're taking into account all the different input that we're getting, of course at the ICIP meetings, but at all the other meetings that we attend. And for instance, the tennis courts weren't specifically requested at the ICIP meeting. They've been requested from input throughout the year. And, you know, to be honest, staff didn't even look at the tennis courts up until about 6 years ago, because I didn't even know we owned them. So, we had discussions with the school, and because of the public input, we looked more into it. We work with the schools as much as we can. We work with other public agencies within the community, and to find out and see what we can get, what's prioritized. I mean, what's the priority? But as well, we also, at the same time, we want to look at the different funding sources that are out there and available, and try to match those priorities to the different funding sources. And for instance, that Cooper Street project, it's on the list. We've got the funds, so we're putting it down at the bottom of the priority list, because it's funded. And we just want to make sure that it stays on this list, so that when the state asks us if it's on the ICIPs, which they've been asking us for everything now, it's there. But for instance, moving the ambulances up, that's something that we've barely started having discussions with the fire department over the last couple months. And, you know, I was sitting here, and me finding out this last week that it has to be on the top 3 to request it from. So, you know, all these different types of things have a little bit of effect, and it changes throughout the year. And it's juggling, trying to get all the different priorities in there. And I don't know if I confused you more there, but...
No, you didn't confuse me, but if I may have one follow-up question.
Mayor? As an example, on the sidewalks, let's say there's $100,000 for sidewalks, Silver City. Let's say you've got some funding for that or all funding for that. How is it determined what sidewalks get repaired? Do the citizens have a role in that?
Well, of course, we have the Safe Routes to School plan. There's one plan. We have the paving and sidewalk, what is it called? Master plan. We have both of those documents. And then, I think, as I discussed at the meeting, we've got long lists of sidewalks that residents have asked us to do, some that they're willing to partner on with us, and some they just want us to do. And so we take all those into account and see, we may get only $20,000, so we're going to find a small project that really needs it, because the paving and sidewalk master plan is listed by the condition. If there's any, and there's no sidewalks at all. So, if it's in bad condition and it's a safety issue, that's going to be more important than actually putting new sidewalks somewhere where there's no sidewalks. So those are the types of things. And, we do miss things sometimes, but we're trying to take as much of all this public input and tie it up into those priorities. Because we have so many of these requests, and for instance, this Chihuahua Hill project that we're doing right now, that's a repaving and sidewalk project. Well, we can only do it get that funding to do it in those areas. So, for instance, the co-op grant that we're doing right now on Santa Rita Street? I think it's Santa Rita Street, right behind Penny Park. It's in front of a school, and plus, with all the traffic and students and students and youth in that area, we wanted to get that fixed up. So, it's just an incorporation of everything and trying to make those decisions.
Well, I appreciate the answer, Alex, and appreciate the time, Mr. Mayor. That helps me understand it a little bit better.
Councilor Morones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I really appreciate the fact that we are working on bettering the procedures. My first experience with this list was a number of years ago, probably a decade ago, working with different nonprofits and finding out that when you're searching for grants, all you simply need to do is be on this document as a formality of applying for stuff. So I remember going to these meetings, and the guidance I had and utilized was just stand up and say, we would like this put on the list. And a staff member would say, sure, put it on the list. Boom, we've met our requirements for a grant proposal for a nonprofit. So it does serve a formality, and it solicits public input from that standpoint, but it was very informal and probably not extremely productive or understood by many, so I appreciate the fact that we're moving into some better procedures.
Come on. Sorry about that.
Good evening, I'm Shelby Hallmark, Silver City resident. I wanted to just make a couple of comments, and there may be a question here before I get done. But I think one of the things that, as a new citizen of the town and just getting involved with all these things, the process is very daunting and confusing, and I think one of the reasons that that people may not come down is because it's like a four-dimensional chess game, trying to figure out, all the different years and the different sources of funding, the many different claimants on fiscal resources, be it fixing things that are broken or adding new assets to the town in terms of things like ballparks or swimming pool or trails or whatever. So the complexity is very hard, and I've been to a couple of these public meetings, found them very interesting and very useful, but I also found them very sort of opaque in the sense that and I've had the sense from other people who have been there before that it's sort of like, well, these lists just keep rolling forward. We never quite know, what's going to happen. Things are at the top of the list, but they don't get paid for, and other things do, all of which is understandable. I think my perspective as somebody who has run a national program is that program managers get paid to run programs. And I think one of the things that we should hold the mayor and council and the town manager and his staff accountable for is doing that. So I think it would be a problem if every time you got a chunk of money, you had to come and ask the public, well, which sidewalk should we fix? Because everybody wants the one that's right in front of my house fixed, and then you'd have chaos. Or at least a lot of noise. And then our previous speaker would be mad because of the noise. But anyway, what I think needs to be addressed, and what I hope will be addressed in future iterations of this, is the big issues. Because I think most of the people who come to those meetings that Alex and his company have held are interested in what is it that we can do that would be in addition to the town? What are the kind of new assets that we could build? And how do we, how can we have an influence on which of those we should try to decide for? And I think if we could focus it more along those lines, so that it's more about the sort of big ticket discretionary items that we may or may not want to do as a town, and not so that we leave aside the complexities of where's the money going to come from, because the folks in that room, people like me, we'll never understand the intricacies that Alex understands. But we do have an idea about what we think are the big items that would be good investments for Silver City to make. And I think the recent experience with the county election that did not pass speaks to the fact that people want to be assured that, if we spend money, that it's been well vetted and it's understood and we know what it's about. And I think my sense is that's probably why most people voted against the proposal, not necessarily because those activities were not wanted by many of the folks, but they weren't sure that they had been vetted, they weren't sure they were the right ones, they weren't sure they were all the ones they would want. So all of that is to say, I think we ought to focus on those big items. I think that ought to be sort of maybe a way of opening up the discussion with the public in a more fruitful way. And another suggestion, I guess there isn't a question in here, another suggestion is possibly some sort of an ongoing public committee that would, maybe a few souls who are hardy enough to want to jump in and work with Peter and young lady here and try to understand this better and make, maybe help evolve the public input to a little bit higher level of sophistication. Committees are tough, I understand that, but I do think that there's a need in this town and county for us to pull together and try to figure out ways to invest in ourselves. I certainly hope we can do that, and I'd like to help. So thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. Alex?
I'd like to say that this list, the reason that this list doesn't focus on those big ticket items or those new items is because this is a list that's required from the state of New Mexico to get any funding through the state. And it is basically for infrastructure. It's not how can we make the community better from the standpoint of new ball fields, swimming pools, like the recent election. I think that's another process that we can work on, but it's a separate process than this one, because we can't they compete in different ways.
Can I understand that list has other uses?
You can't speak from up there. You come up. The microphones don't pick up real well, and then if everybody starts doing it, then I'm leaving. I want to address a few things that Shelby brought up. One is there are discussions, and there have actually been for a couple of years, about the the big ticket items and having, this may not be the proper term, but for the lack of a better one, having a dream team of county residents, county-wide residents that can go through a public process, and that when I start getting a bunch of emails, I can send them to the committee and they can be vetted as to whether where they should fall in a priority and where the proper home for the project should actually be, whether it's county or municipal or even in the tri-county, or if it's actually a state responsibility. So we have been having that discussion for some time. In the last 6 months or so, it has picked up, and we've had some more discussions with the county regarding that, and we'll be bringing the Tri-City in to make sure that we're all on board and that we come up with a process that basically accomplishes what you're saying and is respected by the governing bodies that have to pass the final legislation that makes things happen. So that has been moving and will continue to, and I think you'll see some more activity soon on that. And the other thing that we might consider, Alex, is, you know, these meetings on the ISIP took place last month, I believe, and we might consider having them earlier in the year so that we have more time to actually get the input and then come back at another meeting and respond to the input, make sure that, you know, if the paving master plan is a big question in the public's eye, let's make sure that people know how to access it and that we have sufficient information to discuss it. By waiting till a month before it's on the council agenda, we don't have time for that, because then we get behind the deadline and nothing is eligible for funding.
I completely agree that we should start having meetings earlier. The only thing is that we do have to have those final meetings fairly close to when it's going to be adopted, because I think every year that I've been town manager, the process from the state level has changed. So that's why we need those close meetings, but I agree that the meetings through the year should start. And
another detail that makes that difficult is the state didn't have their website up, so it was even accessible until the July 20th. So we didn't have access to the website to see what changes they'd made and what new requirements they had. Our training was the middle of July, and then the website wasn't up until the end of July. Last year we began in May. So a lot of that, they also moved the deadline up a month this year. Last year it was due in October. It has to be sent by United Postal Service by September 30th. So the town only had a 2.5 month window. So we could have preliminary meetings during the year, but we don't even have access to the database after the legislature meets until they reopen it again. This year it was in July, the end of July. So that's those small kinks.
I think it's semantics.
Okay. So we could use this year's to have earlier meetings.
that's what the mayor's saying, I think, is take this list and just use it for the public input earlier in the year so that we can come back and start having the discussions and educating the public a little bit more, having the discussions through the year. And because of what we have to go through with the state changing it, we'll have our final meetings, but we'll have had a lot more input from the community beforehand. Because one thing that I completely understand the issues about why it's so hard to understand. Well, I'm taking the priorities from so many different departments as well as nonprofits and trying to mesh all of those together, and that's why I think it's so hard, confusing to everyone. But yes, I completely agree. We can work off of this list through the year, and because if we start earlier in the year, it gives us more time for issues that happen in the summer. Right now, everybody's going to be calling us. If we had them today, everybody would be, the priority is drainage. So, I mean, so if we have them throughout the year, I think it gets those priorities, the input a lot better for projects that would benefit everybody throughout the year.
I think waiting till the database, the database is what we put in it. So we know what we put in it. And regardless of what the state rules are, you come up with a more comprehensive list that's not driven by funding, but driven by the needs of the town. And then you take the state rules whenever they come out, and you apply them to your list, and you come up with a list that is pulled out of a strategic planning list and comes out with what the state wants to see in their infrastructure capital improvement plan. But at the same time, we know what the town needs regardless of a bureaucrat in Santa Fe thinks we should put on a list. So, and I also want to make it real clear, we will give the opportunity for more public input, but people have to show up and provide it. It is very costly for us to continue to have meetings when nobody shows up. And so, I think we need to, maybe Shelby, Ski, and John, you can get some input on what's the best times and days, and that we actually get attendance, because it's just draining resources to have meetings and have 3 people show up. You can do that any day of the week. Just call and make an appointment. So, Councilor Morones?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Just like to, talk about how I, as a counselor, like to, I do value public input, and I want to get as much public input as possible when I vote on items like this. But I do understand how complex government is, and how we have to tie a lot of public input into a certain product that may seem like it doesn't have public input, even on the big ticket issues. So when I look at what does the town have that has had substantive public input on big ticket items, like our comprehensive plan, our downtown action plan, our greenways big ditch park plan, our MRA plan, all of those plans that have had substantive public input on what we want to help improve the community. And I look at those type of plans, and then I take this little product and say, does this have a substantial number of those projects that have been identified by the public? And when I look at this, yes, we in here are a large number of big ticket items that have been identified through all those plans that have been adopted, that have had substantial, over a decade period of time of many public inputs, sessions and meetings, and that's where I, as a counselor, have always been satisfied with this product, which may on the surface seem like it doesn't have a lot of public input, but when you look at all the drivers that we've had and all those plans that we've adopted, there has been well over a decade of substantial meetings and with a number of participants, and that's always reassured me that there is a substantial amount of public input in this document. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Pedersen.
And I also would like to address, when we look at investment in our community, everything that's on here is investment in our community. They may not be big ticket projects, but ensuring that we have Chihuahua Hill water system improvements, that's an investment in our community. It may be in that area, but it's important to those folks there. And we do have special monies that go for that. Sidewalks, it's an investment in our community. We have a lot of people that are now walking everywhere for health reasons and walking to work, and also, as it was mentioned by Ski, walking safe routes to school. So what little monies we can get and that can put towards that's an investment in our community. So the list is long and it's complicated, and I know over the years that I've been a counselor, and I know the first time I saw it, I kind of went, oh my goodness, how did this develop, and how did it happen? But I agree with Councilor Ronas. I mean, the list is long. There have been things on here, but they have come out of many of the plans that citizen input has been considerable on. And I think that sometimes we have to put things up front that are critical to public safety, like the ambulances. And I think that that's the reason why the suggestion was made by the town manager, and I think we have to look at that and weigh that. And while understanding where the funding sources are, it's difficult, may not necessarily answer everything. The ranking and at least in what we know is critical and what we think is going to be important for us is something that can be done and can be done a little bit earlier, and try to get the public to understand at least this process and how this develops. It's, in a sense, a 4 or 5 year plan for the town of the way it wants to move forward. That doesn't mean that things don't get shifted and things don't get put on, and as times change, that other things, get taken off or something else comes into it. So it's a living, breathing document that works, and I think we can just, anything that we can do to enhance the process, the recommendations that have been made, I think will really benefit us.
No, I think talking, how I said, I'm trying to incorporate the needs of all the different departments. Maybe throughout the year, rather than having meetings that people come to just throw out any project that they want, maybe we can have some meetings that talk about, that's specific to the Public Works Department and roads and recreation. So that way those people that are interested specifically in that can come to that. People that are interested in public safety. And that way, when we get to these final things, the public can see how it's sort of intertwined, and get a better picture of what I see. And I think that might be a little bit more productive for the community, especially at this final stage. So.
Would that include us, council?
Yeah, you can go to the meetings and whatever you tell me when to have the meeting.
Any other discussion from the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Benson.
I move to approve resolution number 2013-34, a resolution adopting the 2015-2019 Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan, ICIP, moving ambulances to number 2, and then just dropping everybody else down to 3, 4, 5. That's it.
Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to approve as amended. Is there any other discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2013-34, a resolution adopting the 2015 through 2019 Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plan, ICIP, moving number 9, the ambulances, up to number 2, and everything down 1 below that. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Councilor Cook.
Aye.
Councilor Knight.
Aye.
Councilor Miller.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank everybody for the good, positive discussion. The next item on the agenda is appointment to Planning and Zoning Commission, and we have currently 1 opening and 2 applications, and if there's no objection, I would like to appoint Carmen L. Stephen to the opening. The applicant has met with staff and the chair of P&Z, and they find the applicant to be fit, qualified, and desirable. Is there any objection? No. Carmen L. Stephen is duly appointed. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.